तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ते भूरिदा जना. Good evening, friends. So today we have a very interesting topic at hand, knowing M in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When M was in his latter part of his life, he was being interviewed, and the interviewer was asking questions about his education and how many siblings he had and such. He got irritated somewhat and said, "Why you ask? These are not important. A biography is not about facts and events, but biography is the story of the mind and the soul." So, and then he mentioned, if you want to know about me and how I evolved spiritually, read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So that is sort of the inspiration of this talk. So we'll get to know M through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So as you know, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna was a product of his diaries. And usually when you ask people, tell me, usually the question here you ask as you get to know people, how you came to hear, how you came to know about Vedanta, how do you came to your guru and such. But what we really want to know is the spiritual evolution of a person, and that people are a little guarded when they talk about that, especially, and that question becomes much more relevant, not as you were coming to terms with the Vedanta, but looking back, that becomes a much more relevant question, how you evolve spiritually. So, we'll go over the Kathamrita with this idea in mind, because usually when we read about the Kathamrita, we want to know about spirituality. We want to know about Sri Ramakrishna. Never we thought that this came out of a person's diary. And diary is very personal, and he has given us authority to go over his diary, go look over the Kathamrita. So, when M first met Sri Ramakrishna, of course, he doesn't talk about it. One thing to know about is, all the disciples, pretty much all the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna and all the devotees who came to meet him already knew something about him through the Brahmo Samaj. This was quite an accident. Even though M was involved in the Brahmo Samaj, his meeting was quite an accident. He was staying with his father and stepmother and all his siblings jointly in a property, and he was frustrated. Apparently there's no reason to be frustrated because he was having an okay life, but staying together, worldly problems, everybody for himself and herself, he got totally, like, I'm trying to help out everybody to be a nice resident. He just got to a point where he said, I can't deal with this. I may commit suicide. And he just walks out of the house. That was his state of the mind. He happened to come visit his sister a little away from Kolkata, where he used to stay. And then, wandering around one garden to the other, he was with his nephew and he said, there's a nice temple. Let's go check it out. And there is a Paramahamsa who lives there. As he enters the garden house, his mood changes. He felt like a strange sense of joy and an attraction. He was drawn into Sri Ramakrishna's room, which was at the premises of the garden temple. And as he enters, he looks Sri Ramakrishna with his disciples talking, and he feels, this is how you describe, your feelings is and the words, his choice of words. He says, it seemed like all the pilgrimage places just merged into that place. And I felt like Shukadeva himself was talking Bhagavatam to the devotees, or Sri Chaitanya was talking to his devotees. Now there is a link between Sri Chaitanya and M, because Sri Ramakrishna had visions that in his previous life he was a follower of Sri Chaitanya. He had seen in his vision that M was in the following of the Kirtana led by Sri Chaitanya. So at this point, he came to look, check it out. So he stepped out, and by the time he came back again, Sri Ramakrishna's doors were closed. And he asked the lady who was at the door, what books he has read? He must be very learned, right? Because he was speaking so eloquently. And she said, no, it's all in his mouth. That was kind of strange. Like, how could he know so much without reading? And he himself was a well-read person, so he had read all kinds of, and that's how he thought people come to know, by reading books. He went inside. It was quite ethereal. It was, smoke-filled room. But there was not much of a talking, because Sri Ramakrishna was in a state of ecstasy. So only he said, come back again. And then this time he just wanted to come back. He couldn't not stop thinking about Sri Ramakrishna. In a couple of days, he was back again. Morning. Sri Ramakrishna was in a veranda. He was getting his beard trimmed. And this second visit is I would say the gist of Kathamrita is there. Like, if you can say the Bhagavad Gita is chapter 2, is the condensation of the Bhagavad Gita is chapter 2. This meeting is so monumental, I would say, like those who haven't read or do not plan to read this meeting of Sri Ramakrishna. After a small talk, he asked, are you married? And he said, yeah. And he shudders. Oh my God, he's married. Do you have children? And by this time he was a little nervous already, like, what's wrong? He said, yeah, I have children. Oh no, gone. And he's wondering, what's wrong? I'm like, he started feeling, shaken up a little bit. And then Sri Ramakrishna says, I saw very good signs on you. But tell me, how's your wife? Vidya Maya or Avidya Maya? Basically what that means, does she support you in your spiritual life, or she's against that? But he didn't know these terms, English educated. Vidya, Avidya, he thought, is she educated or uneducated? She said, she's ajnana. Ajnana means not educated, but also means ignorant. But she's a nice person. And Sri Ramakrishna replied, and you are a jnani, right? Sarcasm was there. Oh, now his ego was taking a real blow. Okay. So this was another question that he would ask. How do you see God, Sakar, Nirakar, with form or without form? He said, Nirakar is what I like. But he thought, what kind of question is this? It's like something on the menu that you pick up. Either it's one or the other. It's not something you just have a choice about it, right? He said, Nirakar, and very good. Nirakar is good, but don't you think that those who believe in forms, don't you think less of them? At this point, he asked, he wanted to give a piece of his intelligence to Sri Ramakrishna. But shouldn't we tell them that God is not in the forms, in the clay? Sri Ramakrishna at this point said, you Calcutta people, that's your problem. You want to teach others. And then he went on to say, what do you focus on yourself, right? First think, acquire jnana, bhakti, devotion, knowledge for yourself. At this point, M was, of course, appreciative. He said, indeed, what he says is true. What right have I to explain people others? I should try to work on myself. At this point now, the turn came for M to ask questions. Now, in the Bengali version of the Kathamrita, you will see, especially during the first part of the first volume, M would start a section with a verse from a scripture which would describe the mood of that part. So here, that Sri Ramakrishna being accepted as a guru comes out very clear, because he starts, the starting verse was Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Tarshitam Yena Tasmai Se Guru Bhave Namah. This is a very commonly known verse of the Guru, like that Guru who has taught me that everything is one reality, that Guru I salute. And then as these questions were being asked by Sri Ramakrishna, he said, the verse was, Ajnanatimirandhasya, that one, Jnananjana Shalakaya, like the Guru who has given knowledge into my eyes, who has smeared knowledge into my eyes, to that Guru I salute. As now he is going to ask these questions, M, the verse he uses is Sangsara Navaghoreya Karnadhara Swarupaka Namastute Ramakrishnaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. He made this verse himself, it seems, like I salute Sri Ramakrishna, who is my Guru. And I like the questions that he brings up. No beating around the bush. In every other part of the Sri Ramakrishna's gospel, you'll see a lot is going on until they come to the point. And even when he comes to the point, somebody asks some question and the point is lost. But here, he directly asks, question of all questions. That's like if Arjuna is our representative in Bhagavad Gita, M is our representative in the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Question is, how to keep mind in God? Ishore ki kore mon hoy? What's the reply? Ishorer naam gunogan sarboda korte hoy. Which in English translates to what? Literally, it comes to chant unceasingly the name and the glory of the Lord. Now see, this is a Chaitanya's follower. The first answer he gets is chant unceasingly the name and the glory of the Lord. And then holy company. Like it's often, if we think we can stay in the world and keep mind in God all the time, it's part of our ego that says, I can do it. You have to take yourself off from sometimes the worldly things and associate it with holy company. And of course, meditate in home, away from home. Mone, what is that? Mone, bone, kone. And if nothing else, within your mind, but meditate. And nitya anitya vichar. Always discriminate between what is real and unreal. So all forms of like the yogas, he brought it up in his answer to this, a succinct answer. Question 2. Ishwar ki darshan kara jaye? Can God be seen? What is the end result of our spiritual practice? Can God be seen? Simple answer was yes, God can be seen. Ki obosthaye take darshan kara jaye? At what stage can you see God? And the answer was, so this is kind of, I would say, the crux of weep with yearning. Weep for God with yearning. So this, at the end of this visit, M goes back and his mind is so drawn towards this Paramahamsa, and he's wondering how could he explain such intricate things that I never heard ever before. Soon he came back again the third time, and this time he sees he gets to see Sri Ramakrishna talking to a bunch of people, and he sees among them a very prominent devotee, a young lad with bright eyes. His name was Narendra. And soon enough, he heard him singing. And while he was singing, he saw Sri Ramakrishna in Samadhi. He didn't know. He might have heard about Samadhi, but the first time he saw Sri Ramakrishna in Samadhi, totally absorbed in the song, eyes as if not blinking, beautiful expression of joy, but the whole, even maybe it seems he's breathing or not, probably not. Soon enough, he comes back. This time, he gets to meet the same Paramahamsa, making cutting jokes with all these same folks, Narendra and others. And he's just wondering, is this the same guy? He's like cutting jokes, the same guy who had scolded me the other day with like, do you think you are a jnani? And he was in ecstasy. And Sri Ramakrishna notices him and says, okay, so this guy is back here again. He's addicted now. That evening, he had a chance to talk to Sri Ramakrishna again. And Sri Ramakrishna asked him, so, what do you think of me? He was keeping silent, not knowing how to answer that question. How many annas of knowledge do you think I have? So annas, like 4 quarters makes $1, or 10 dimes makes for $1. So 16 annas makes for rupees. So 16 annas of knowledge means 100%. So, so the so he keeps quiet and says, I don't know about anas. I don't know how to answer that. All I can tell is this kind of, I have never ever seen anybody with so much knowledge, so much ecstatic devotion, detachment. What is Vishwas? Faith, and such broad outlook. I have never seen a person of that kind. And Sri Ramakrishna was smiling. And of course, he had seen plenty of people, right? Um, Next, he sees Sri Ramakrishna in Balram Bose's house a few days later, and he sees another boy, Rakhal. Now, he was one of his students not that long ago. For a brief while, he was one of his students. Many of these devotees that he's going to see were either his disciples, his students in his college. And of course, the others, people like Keshav Sen, Vijay Goswami, Vidyasagar, who come into they were also, he had known them because he was very interested in spirituality and so forth. After this, of a couple of weeks or so, so this was March 6th. So April, let's say about a month later, he happens to see Sri Ramakrishna in again Keshav Sen's house. Here, Sri Ramakrishna tells Keshav Sen, why does this guy doesn't come to Dakshineshwar? What's wrong with this guy? See, and it's not like he was not coming. He was coming. There were a couple of entries more. But it's like, have you heard of a Swami saying you are not coming here enough? So he was like, he doesn't come here, and I tell him, write letters when you don't come. So you can see, like Sri Ramakrishna is wanting him to come back, and more than he can keep coming back to him. So soon after M arranged for Sri Ramakrishna wanted to see Vidyasagar. Vidyasagar was a great philanthropist. And Sri Ramakrishna from his very childhood had been idolized. Like, he was a very famous person. Everybody knew him as a very generous person, a great heart, and an educationalist. So M's boss was Vidyasagar, because Vidyasagar's school was where M used to teach. So after that meeting of Vidyasagar, and some 3 weeks after that, he was talking about Vidyasagar, that the Vidyasagar, he doesn't know what's in here, in his heart, what lies inside his heart. He doesn't know. So he goes about doing philanthropy. When he knows what's in here, he will not be able to do any of that. All he will do is ask for God, weep for God. And do you know how to know, like once you get an idea what's in there, how to do that? You need to do sadhana. So spiritual sadhana, the importance of spiritual sadhana. You can hear the same words, and we will see there was another instance where he talks about why spiritual practice is needed. Because without spiritual practice, you will not understand the meanings, you will not understand the scriptures. And he talks about how M asks, do you have to do a lot of sadhana, keep doing practice? He said, yes, initially you have to do a little bit extra. Later on, it will become not that, it will become easier. And of course, he gives the example of how the helmsman initially, until he gets the favorable wind, has to work hard. And once he gets the favorable wind, then he can fix himself at tobacco, no problem. Sri Ramakrishna mentions how a person who's drawn inside, how his eyes tells, it's easy to see in his eyes that he is a yogi. And he says it's just like a bird sitting on the eggs trying to hatch it. All its mind is, attention is towards the eggs, and you can see it right in its eyes, that the eyes are not in the outside world. And he asks M, can you get me such a picture? And M says, yeah, I'll try. Unfortunately, that never happened. And Sri Ramakrishna had passed away. M remembered that, and after his passing away, he had drawn that picture. And in the Kathamrita, you'll see that picture is kind of sort of the emblem of Kathamrita. I should have mentioned when Sri Ramakrishna was talking about to answering his first question, is when he talked about how to stay in the world as a maid, like a maid servant. A maid servant serves the family, but knows very well that these people don't belong to me. And her mind is fixed towards her actual home. And also, like a tortoise going about in the water, but again, its mind is fixed on where his nest is and where her nest is, and so going about, and still your mind is like a devotee staying with God. So personally, these were very, like when I first read them, I still remember where I was, It's like, I don't know, if somebody asks you, where were you when 9/11 happened? I guess everybody knows. Yeah, that was it. Like it was that kind of a impression it had left on me. Then, sometime around October, the Durga Puja is just about coming. People have started gathering. That day it was Narendra had come by and many other devotees had come by. And there was so much joy, so much singing and dancing. And Narendra was going to stay overnight. So Sri Ramakrishna was very happy. He fed the people in the veranda, and then he was pacing about. And he caught him by himself and some other people. And he asked, do you have dreams? And actually, he doesn't even mention his own name. He just says a devotee. But we know that devotee is M. Oftentimes he used such pseudonyms where you wouldn't know which devotee he's talking about. But by circumstantial evidence, it's very clear that it's him, because there is no other devotee other than the ones who are already mentioned. So he says, yes, I have had a dream where I saw there's water everywhere, and then there's a ship, and there is somebody walking on the water. And I asked out, where are you going? He says, I'm going to Bhavanipur. Bhavanipur literally means where the realm of the Divine Mother. And he said, wait, I'll come with you. He said, no, you can't come now, but you follow this path. As where I'm going, you'll reach. And Sri Ramakrishna says, wow, I'm getting goosebumps. You got to take initiation now. The following day, Sri Ramakrishna again took these young kids, Narendra and his Brahmo friends, to the Panchavati to do meditation. And as he was coming back, he was mentioning how much one should refrain from giving lectures, but should instead develop viveka and vairagya, discrimination and detachment. So all this talk about detachment. Again, M is thinking detachment means giving up on one wife's like responsibilities and home duties. That's the idea he had somehow in his mind. So as he was walking back, he stood up in the veranda and asked Sri Ramakrishna, well, if the wife says, you are not looking after me, I'll have to now kill myself. What then? And Sri Ramakrishna very sternly says, get rid of such. Let her kill herself. And M was totally taken aback. He was like almost lost his balance. He's rested against the wall and all the kids, they were looking at him like, wow. Meanwhile, Sri Ramakrishna again started some other talk and then came up to him and said, but for a devotee, doesn't matter. If you are devoted, then your wife will turn around. A wife, a king, evil people, they all turn around. And this time, and then he got some solace back. Next time he meets is the Vijaya Dashami. Durga Puja is just about over. This is a Sunday. And I found it odd that on a Sunday, Vijaya Dashami being when the Durga Puja ends, a very auspicious day, in the morning, M and Sri Ramakrishna are by themselves at Dakshineshwar. So M says to Sri Ramakrishna, you know, I went on the puja days to Keshav Sen's house. So Keshav Sen was a very prominent Brahmo preacher. He says, indeed, what did he say? So he described like how nicely he said, like if you worship Durga, then everything else will come. Lakshmi, knowledge, Saraswati, knowledge, Lakshmi, wealth, Ganesha, Ganesha stands for success, right? And Kartikeya for, I think, valor, right? All these things will come. So when you worship Mother Durga, all these four are also worshipped by them. And Sri Ramakrishna was very interested. Indeed. And then he said something. He said, don't go here and there anymore. You belong to me. Those who belong to me, they come here only. Look at Naren, Rakhal, Bhavanath. They are no ordinary people. They are my own. You don't go anywhere else. Now, you come to me only. So imagine that. Uh, the God Himself is telling you, you belong to me. That must have been a great event on his life. So at this point, again, the conversation goes back to what the first meeting was about. His question was, how is you doing? Are you following God with form or without form? And the conversation again goes in the same direction. Yeah, I without form. But since you have told me, I understand that with form is necessary, right? I cannot put my mind for long in the formless. And he says, so you see, form is necessary. Then he asks, what form can I meditate on? Can I meditate on my mother? Now you see he's missing his mother still. He had lost his mother, and Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, you can. Mother is also like a guru. I want to bring it out. I brought this out. It struck me because as the time went away, M said, I have forgotten my mother. I've forgotten my father. Holy Mother is my mother. And Sri Ramakrishna is my all in all. So he's still in the phase, like in getting there. M asks, what is Nirakar like? What is that state like when you get to the formless? What it is like? Obviously, this is not something which can be described. And Sri Ramakrishna thinks for a little bit and says, you know what? It's like this. And he says, Sri Ramakrishna tells, what was it like? He doesn't describe. He doesn't describe. I mean, oftentimes you hear people telling him, don't tell this to anybody. He writes that also. Don't tell this to anybody, but the answer is this. Like when young Vivekananda, he was saying like, please don't say this to anybody, and he writes all that. But here, he has denied us what he was told. Like Niraka, he just said, he explained. But again, he says, to understand this, you have to do sadhana. You have to do sadhana. That was emphasized over and over again. You have to do your spiritual practice. Otherwise, these words will not make sense. He says, there might be a jewels in the chest, but you have to walk out, get the key, open the chest, and grab it. So you have to do all that. And at this point, talking about infinity and all that, M says, Ishwar is infinite. And who is talking about Ishwar is also infinite. So he's basically saying, you are also infinite. It's the first time when he feels and he expresses it that you are infinite. And Sri Ramakrishna said, he starts smiling and said, you got it. So this is September 26th in Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna is again asking him, do you dream on me? M. Yes, sir, many times. Giving instructions? Do I give instructions in the dreams? M is sort of silent. And Thakur says, if you see me giving instructions in your dream, know that it is Satchidananda himself who is doing so. M then talks about his dreams. Thakur listens to them and says, good. Don't reason anymore. You are a follower of Shakti. So now a time comes when Sri Ramakrishna says, don't reason. Give up reasoning. Always intellectually trying to grab answers to every question. Get rid of that idea. That is not your path. You are a follower of Shakti. In December of 83, so it's just about close to 2 years that M has been coming to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, Holy Mother was not staying in the Nahabat where she used to stay, a little distant away, like maybe 20 yards away from where Sri Ramakrishna used to stay, in what was the music tower, what was meant to be used as a music tower. Holy Mother used to stay there. But Holy Mother had gone away to her ancestral place. M was sitting on the veranda of that place and meditating. Sri Ramakrishna comes there and says, hey there, you sitting there? You will get results of your practices very soon. Someone will come and tell you what to do. Your time has come. When the time comes, the mother knows when to crack open the egg, when the bird is ready to hatch. Your time has come. M is quite stunned at this, like, my time has come? And he says, I told you your ideal, who it was, right? And then he tells, what is your ideal? Again, he doesn't say, who is my ideal? He doesn't say that. He just says, Thakur says, this is your ideal. You don't have to do excessive tapasya. Not all have to do excessive tapasya. Usually you never hear this. You can always not enough do tapasya, right? You have to do your practices more and more and more. But Thakur says, your time has come. Don't have to do any much tapasya. So this is like where he describes what was his tapasya. M describes what was his tapasya, what was he doing. He said he kept it very simple. He took one idea that Thakur had been talking about is God realization is goal of life, number one. Number two, God can be obtained. Once you do your sadhana, God can be obtained. So, and what was his sadhana? Thinking of Sri Ramakrishna. To never let go of the thoughts of Sri Ramakrishna. So that was it. For him, having faith that God can be realized, and this is my practice, and his practice was always thinking of Sri Ramakrishna. And he said, from now you do Ekadashi, that will be good for you. And he again says, you are my very own. You are like Rakhal, Narendra, and Hiralal. he talks about how he had prayed for a son because he was not married. He wanted a son. He said, I wanted a son who was pure. And he said, that's how I obtained Rakhal. And you have come here. So this was on December the 9th, he says. He was passing along the Panchavati and he says, right here, with my eyes open, I have seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu going with his procession. Nowadays, I see it in my mind. All my visions are in my mind, but at that time I had my eyes open and I had seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walking right here, and you were there along with Balaram. So it was a very touching moment for M. He plucked out a couple of leaves from that tree and kept it as a memento. He said, this is going to be very special to me. And he said, oh yeah, what's so special? He said, when all these things are done, this will become a place of pilgrimage. And he said, oh yeah, is it like Panihati? You know, Panihati was a place where Sri Ramakrishna used to go. There used to be festival of Panihati. Now people know Dakshineshwar much more than Panihati, you know. And so I wonder what happened to those leaves. After this incident, this happened in December 9th, and soon enough the Christmas vacation was coming, and M decided he's going to stay for a prolonged period of time in Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna was very happy, and he said, okay, where do you think you can stay here? M thought that Nahabat was a very nice place to stay. Of course, the Holy Mother had stayed there, so maybe the vibes were there. He said, from here I can see the Ganges, and with the moon lit up. He had a very poetic, right? The way he describes, he had a very poetic mind. And Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, that's nice, but I was thinking more that hut under the Panchavati. That hut is where many people have done sadhana. And Sri Ramakrishna himself had obtained Nirvikalpa Samadhi in that hut. Totapuri had initiated him, and he had obtained the ultimate there. So that was quite a time for M. He used to stay in the Nahabat and go early in the morning, 2 a.m., and go meditate in the hut under the Panchavati. So again, there was in January of 1984, he reiterates that don't reason anymore. He said he had called on the Divine Mother and said, let a thunderbolt fall on my reasoning. I don't want to reason anymore. Just give me pure bhakti. And who obtains bhakti gets everything. I just asked my mother, I don't know anything about the Vedas. I don't know anything about the Upanishads. I want all this knowledge. And he said, all that just came to me. So, says, and then he asks M to say, tell me, promise me that you will not reason anymore. Bolo ar korbe na, won't do that anymore. Like a little child, he said, oh yeah, I won't do it anymore. So, um, there are a lot more to come. I mean, of course, I can see that time is going to be a limitation here. M, as you know, he just continued to be a constant figure around Sri Ramakrishna. Slowly, Sri Ramakrishna's health, he got the cancer. M was all the way along with him when he was suffering through and through. He was with him and taking notes, meditating on him. Every time he would take notes, go home and keep meditating on what was told. After Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, he continued to, the diaries kept on going. He had written down about how the young devotees were getting themselves together. So I feel even now that how do we get to know M? Many parts, of course, got omitted, right? And again, it came down to events and facts to some extent, like significant events and facts. But which part can we eliminate? Like this is not important in M's growing up, spiritual growth, because every little teachings of Sri Ramakrishna is what M meditated upon, and that was part of his growing up spiritually. And to know M, we have to read the gospel. Reading the gospel is how we get to know M in entirety. And not just that. So whoever drinks this Kathamrita is as if I know that people. There were times I meet somebody, a stranger, and when he or she says, I read the Kathamrita, and we start talking about it, says, I feel like I know that person, right? So by reading the Kathamrita, it's not just we are knowing M, not that's just we are knowing Sri Ramakrishna, we are knowing each other. So Bhakta, Bhagavan, Bhagavat, everything condensed in the Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, with that, I'll end the talk here. Thank you.
You gave me this, right?
Huh?
You gave me this.
Yes,
You want to
but you
take
didn't use it. But if there is a question, I think. Is there some? Huh? Yes. Okay, the closing prayer now. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So if I have to make announcements, this Friday, Yona Yukan, Professor Yona Yukan will be talking about For the Love of God. That's the topic, For the Love of God. Sunday, Rajeshwari Balasubramaniam, she'll be talking about Tamil Shaivism. Next Tuesday, again, there will be a talk on influence of M on the Ramakrishna movement. Yes, daily morning and evening, Aarti, prayers, meditation will continue.
People
Everybody's
want to
welcome.
register for the retreat, they should see me.
So, the upcoming retreat is Saturday, April 12th, and the registration is open now. And yes, Charlie will take. Charlie,
You can also register through the website.
yes, people can register on the website too. Thank you.
You know.